Sports Rock.
Rock.
This segment we're going to dig into, well, first we're going to kick it off with Peyton Manning. There's some news in the Peyton Manning front. 2 of his doctors have cleared him to continue his NFL career. What happens with him? Does Indianapolis retain him, give him that signing bonus? Do they cut him free? What happens with Peyton Manning?
I personally feel that Indianapolis has already made up their mind that Andrew Luck's going to be their number 1 pick. He's going to be their quarterback of the future. Very, very hard to let go your franchise player. And he has been the face of the Indianapolis Colts since he's been there.
Absolutely.
I think the face of the NFL for the last
yeah. I mean, it's very, very hard for that to happen. And I think I can't think of Mr. Israel.
Jim Irsay.
Jim Irsay. It's hard to think what's going through his mind, but for sure they're definitely going to go with the Luck for their first pick. He could very well end up being a free agent. There's a lot of money being owed to him in a very short time, and I think basically they may sit down and say, okay, we're on this direction. Even though you have 2 doctors clear you, we're going to go another direction. So Peyton Manning's been a great ball player, to say the least. I think that maybe his time is up in Indianapolis.
Okay, respect that.
Well, I think Indianapolis is looking at a $28 million roster bonus due in March sometime. Peyton Manning will be released. They're not going to pay him $28 million. If he is medically cleared to play, then Indianapolis will have that option. I think they're looking to make a clean break and start the Andrew Luck regime now. Peyton Manning, if he is healthy, will find suitors.
Do you think that it's better for Andrew Luck to have Peyton either come back and him to sit for a year under Peyton, or maybe have Peyton come back as some sort of coach? Well, or do you think it's better for Andrew Luck that Peyton Manning just goes and Luck figures it out on his own?
Well, I think in a perfect world, it might be that Peyton Manning comes back and plays and Andrew Luck sits for a year under Peyton Manning's tutelage.
Yes,
absolutely.
I think in a perfect world. In a not so perfect world, Peyton Manning is not going to stay at Indianapolis and not be the starting quarterback.
No.
He's not going to be the backup to Andrew Luck. Not if he can play. If Peyton Manning can play, he is going to go somewhere else and play. He wants to play. There will be suitors lined up for Peyton Manning, whether it be Arizona, the Jets possibly, if they've seen enough of Mark Sanchez. I would like to see the Cleveland Browns be in the hunt.
Do you think that if Eli wins the Super Bowl this year, that will have an impact on what he decides to do? Because do you think he probably doesn't want to get outshone by Eli? And Eli would have one more than him, so maybe he'd be looking for another one before he hangs it up.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's some brotherly rivalry there. Peyton would have to go somewhere where he thinks he can win now. Obviously, his window would be closing. Would that be the Jets? Would that be his best option as far as possibly winning now?
Maybe Tennessee?
Tennessee has Hasselbeck.
Yeah, I mean, come on, he's not Peyton Manning.
No, he's not. We're not sure how Peyton Manning, are we getting the Peyton Manning of the past? Or are we getting the Peyton Manning that's now crippled to where he's an okay quarterback? But, I mean, I don't know what kind of Peyton Manning. He hasn't played for a year.
Right.
So we're not really sure what kind of Peyton Manning we're going to get. But if he's healthy and he can play, he's cleared by the doctors, he's playing somewhere.
Well, I feel, in all honesty, even being cleared by the doctors, no matter what he says in the press and in public, in the back of his mind, he has to think that he has had this very serious injury. It could very much deter what kind of quarterback he is now to what he used to be.
Right.
And whoever picks him up, if he can play like he used to, well, then hell yeah, he's got age on him. Regardless of his injury, he's got age on him. But I think that it's all going to determine how Peyton Manning's mindset is. If he's totally healthy and clear to play and he's able to play, there's quite a few teams out there that could use him. And yes, the Cleveland Browns is definitely one of them.
Maybe you see Peyton Manning going to a different football team. But I mean, it's easy to say I'm healthy and I practice and I look okay. But once you get into live action,
It could make a
maybe
big difference.
Peyton Manning is not the quarterback that he was.
But let me
Exactly.
ask you this, and we'll start with Mr. 80. What good does it do for Peyton Manning and his legacy to go to a team like Cleveland where he's not going to win a Super Bowl before he retires? Why would he want to do something like that?
Well,
If he does, I'm not saying he will, but what?
I'm not saying he would. I think his option would be to go to a team that's a contender. Quite honestly, I would say that would be his number one option, would be to go to a team that's a contender. Which there's probably a few teams out there that might be the person they need. But I still go back to the idea, and the whole simple fact of it is, though, he wants to play, and he could be medically cleared to play. But I still think that in the back of his mind, when he's out there on that field, and especially if he takes a couple really, really, really severe hits, that he's not going to be the quarterback he was. And that might be a reason for teams not to take him.
It's very true.
Because he may not be, he takes a couple really severe hits, and it could be a Spielman incident.
Doug?
I don't think it hurts his. I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy. Joe Montana left San Francisco and went to Kansas City and played with the Chiefs.
But I'm saying, why would he want? I don't think it would hurt his legacy either. But why would he want to do something like that?
He wants to play,
Even if it means playing on a team that wins 4 games.
Well, I think
Maybe 6 with him coming in. I mean,
well, I think he feels that if he's healthy and he's good enough. If he feels that he has not lost anything from not playing last year. That he feels that he is still a top 5-10 quarterback. Would he be good enough to help the Browns? Sure, he'd be good enough to help the Browns. But the Browns have so many holes that would that get them over the hump to get them to the playoffs? I don't know about that. But if he would go to oh yeah, he's going to create buzz no matter where he goes. Especially if he goes to, would he go to New York and play for the Jets with his brother right across the street? That would create quite a bit of
interesting.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yep.
You know, would he go to Miami? They're certainly looking for a quarterback. In Miami's, their defense isn't too bad. Their offense is kind of shaky, but they don't really have a quarterback. Would he be the difference in getting Miami from a 6 or 7 win season to a 10 or 11 win season and being in the playoffs? Maybe. He's going to have options, and I think his days in Indianapolis are numbered. I really do. I think that $28 million roster bonus is just going to be so high that Indianapolis is going to part ways and look to Andrew Luck.
All right, moving on. Let's talk real quick about college signing day. The Ohio State Buckeyes, according to ESPN, ranked 6th with 5 top 150 recruits, 25 commits overall. Michigan at 7th, right on their heels, with 4 top 150 recruits, 25 commits overall. The breakdown right now looks like Ohio State. Their top prospect is defensive end Noah Spence. They've got 1 5-star commit, 11 4-stars, 12 3-stars, and 1 other. And Michigan, their top prospect Terry Richardson, and it breaks down to 11 4-stars, 12 3-stars, and 2 others for Michigan. These 2 teams are the only 2 teams from the Big Ten that are anywhere near the top. 8 SEC teams out of the top 25. I mean, obviously this is good for Ohio State and Michigan. It's good for the rivalry. But the Big Ten overall is falling behind.
Well, they've been behind. The SEC, since they've become the BCS championship type game, is won it every year. I mean, hell, this year they had two teams in it.
Yeah, right now it's the top 5 listed on ESPN as Alabama, Florida State, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. 3 SEC teams in the top 5.
And it's going to be extremely difficult for any team outside of an SEC team to be a championship caliber team. I mean, Alabama is already the national championship or national champions, and they end up with the #1 recruiting class by most scouting services. The rich get richer. I mean, could I see Alabama winning another national championship next year and the year after? Hell yeah!
Yeah.
I just don't see any team Outside of possibly Southern Cal next year, they had a decent recruiting class. Next year they have Barkley coming back, and Robert Wood's a great wide receiver. But I just, the NCAA, college football is the SEC, and everybody else is fighting for second place.
Real quick, Ohio State's top 150. Their 5 top 150 prospects were, like I said, no offense, Adolphus Washington, another defensive end, Savon Pittman, another defensive end, Tommy Schutt, a defensive tackle, and Joey O'Connor, an offensive guard. No skill positions, all except one on the defensive line. This definitely tells you where Urban Meyer is heading with Ohio State. What do you think about this class so far, Mr. Ady?
Well, I think, first of all, it's his first year at the university, and he's building what it takes to win a ball game, linemen.
Yep.
You have to have great offensive and defensive linemen in order to win. The SEC is a proven fact of that. And which
Great
Mr.
defenses.
Becknell said that. You have to have
Yes.
great defenses. You have to have good offensive linemen. You will bring in the people, the skill positions where they're accountable for. But you definitely need to build your lines, and I think that's a key thing. And he is actually a coach from the SEC. He came from Florida. He won some championship games there. He knows what it's going to take to build a championship team, and it's going to take a while. But I do feel, in all honesty, what Mr. Becknell also said, is the SEC is definitely hands above where we are now anywhere else, any other level.
Yep.
I think Urban Meyer is just trying to build a Big Ten school to be at that level.
Real quick, what do you think of Michigan's class? Are you happy with it?
Outstanding. They have, when Brady Hoke came in, he said that most schools are 10 to 12 deep on the offensive and defensive sides, offensive and defensive lines. Michigan at that time was like 7, 8 deep. They have gone big on both sides of the ball. They've gotten a little bit better. Brady Hoke's done an outstanding job with Michigan. Outstanding.
Yes, he has. He's done a fantastic job.
And real quick, what about Urban Meyer stepping on some toes? Stole 4 recruits from Penn State, 1 from Michigan State, 1 from Wisconsin. Bielema in Wisconsin's, crying like a whiny little bitch, saying he thinks that, it's illegal. What do you think? Is he just doing his job, or do you think that he's...
Well, if you look at those top 4 or 5 guys you mentioned, he flipped probably 4 or 5 of those guys. Spence was going to come, but he flipped Schutt from Penn State. He flipped Pittman from Michigan State. He flipped 2 guys from Notre Dame. He raided Penn State. He got 3 or 4 guys from Penn State. He said, hey, he calls them. He called Kyle Kalis, that's going to Michigan, that's a top high school recruit. Said, hey, you want to come to Ohio State? He said, no, I'm going to Michigan. He said, thanks anyway, and he moves on.
What do you think, Mr. Ady? Is this what you want to see out of Urban Meyer?
Well, what I want to see out of Urban Meyer is a national championship.
Well, yeah.
And he has the capability of doing it,
correct.
but I do believe that it's going to take him a couple years to do it.
But are you okay with him stepping on these colleges' toes? Are you okay
hell
with
yeah!
this?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
They'll do it to anybody else, so what makes the difference?
Absolutely.
They'll do it to anybody else. So
Sorry,
it
but it's a
matter.
dog-eat-dog world.
Sure.
If your dog got eaten,
Yeah,
take your ball and go home. Shut the hell up.
It doesn't matter. They were going to go there. They come here.
Well, you
That's the best thing.
recruit these kids, and you just hope that they come through, because there's going to be transfers. There's going to be kids that flunk out.
Trouble.
Yep.
You just hope that you got the best kids you can get and move on.
All right, that'll do it for the third segment of Sports Rock. Join us next where we will put the rock in Sports Rock.